Good evening, everybody. I'm Al Roker. Remember this?
That bridge has pancaked itself down.
Oh, the humanity. Nothing can do for you. Obviously a major malfunction. I consider myself
Oswald has been shot. The Prince and Princess of Wales.
Khrushchev interrupts. He says no.
On this NBC station.
And good evening. Welcome to Remember This, the MSNBC News Quiz Show. We have poured through the NBC News archives. You know what we found? A lot of loose change and the who, what, and where of the past 40 years. The stories you're about to see will surprise you, entice you, and we hope test your memory. But before we get started, let's meet today's players. First off, we have David Colarusso, Professor Joseph Jarvis, and Steve Bent, all from East Stroudsburg University. We want to welcome you back to the program.
Hey, way to go, Al.
All right, thank you, and very nice sweatshirts. And they're going to be playing up against Larry Cunningham, Mr. John Emmons, and Jeremy Poland, all from John Jay College of Criminal Justice here in New York City. Welcome back again as well, gentlemen.
Thanks, Al.
And you seem to be a little more nattily attired than our friends from East Stroudsburg. More of a dress code at John Jay?
It's the New York
I see.
thing.
Right, okay. So then later on you're going to beat them up. Okay. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
All right. Dateline, June 5th, 1968. Take a look at a dream that ended in horror. See if you remember this.
My thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there.
Somebody shot him in this corridor behind the kitchens, going to the kitchens here. His aides are naturally extremely emotional, extremely excited, and they're pushing.
Let's go, honey, let's go. Police protection at yours.
That was the aftermath, obviously, of the Robert Kennedy assassination, which took place at what Los Angeles hotel? The Hilton, the Hyatt, or the Ambassador? From East Stroudsburg, David.
The Ambassador.
The Ambassador is correct for 10 points. Your team first on the board and now in control. Kennedy had just won the California primary, but the week before, he had surprisingly lost in Oregon to Edmund Muskie, Eugene McCarthy, or Hubert Humphrey. Professor Jarvis.
Gene McCarthy.
Eugene McCarthy is correct for another 10 points. Finally, who was eventually convicted for Robert Kennedy's assassination? Steve.
Sirhan.
Sirhan is correct for another 10 points. A clean sweep. You are first on the board with 30. John Jay, nothing, but we have another 10-point story for you. Take a look as John Hart profiles the original Rocky III. See if you remember this.
He'd wanted to be president ever since he was a kid, he said later. After all, what else was there to aspire to? For the child of John D. Rockefeller, Jr., for the grandson of the country's first billionaire, John D. Sr. His marriage to Mary Todd Hunter Clark lasted 31 years. They were separated in 1961, the same year their 23-year-old son, Michael, was swept to sea off New Guinea and never found. 2 years later, he married Happy Murphy and came back from his honeymoon to find the marriage had turned public sentiment against his presidential ambitions. But he wanted most to be president, and the first of 3 tries began in 1960. But he started late, then quit, leaving the nomination to Richard Nixon. 4 years later, he made a fight of it. But at the convention in San Francisco, his speech on extremism, which was a speech against Barry Goldwater, was shouted down. In 1968, he was in and out of the race for the presidential nomination, and with each announcement saying he was in or out, his candidacy was taken less and less seriously. And when Nixon was nominated, Rockefeller appeared for him, keeping to himself the secret of a meeting with Lyndon Johnson, a secret to be kept until Rockefeller's death.
Well, what was that secret? To be Johnson's running mate? To run as an independent? Or to change parties and run as a Democrat? Anybody want to take a shot? East Stroudsburg, Steve.
To change parties and run as a Democrat.
That is correct for 10 points. I got a little nervous there. Nobody was doing anything. Your team is in control. We're going to talk about some other Rockefellers. John D. the First was America's first billionaire. Our question, did he make his fortune in railroads, oil, or steel? East Stroudsburg, Professor Jarvis.
Oil.
Oil is correct for another 10 points. Finally, John D. Rockefeller IV is a U.S. Senator from New York, Tennessee, or West Virginia. David.
New York.
That is not correct. John J., you get a chance to get on the board. Larry.
West Virginia.
West Virginia is correct. Nice guess, but got you on the board. We have one more story for you. Everybody ready?
Yes.
You betcha.
Okay, the Dateline, July 17th, 1985. Take a look as Tom Brokaw and Jack Perkins report on the happiest place on earth. Check it out.
Disneyland. It seems as though it has been with us forever. Maybe that's the secret. It is a timeless place. In fact, however, Disneyland is not even middle-aged. It opened 30 years ago. But then, as Jack Perkins reports tonight, a lot has changed in that time.
Once upon a time, there were an abandoned orange grove and a man with the magical ability to dream as a child.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream. Disneyland.
$20 million brought the dream to life, and 30 years ago today, the dedication.
With the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world. Thank you.
Well, Disneyland has indeed brought a lot of joy to all the world. In fact, the park attraction, let me ask that again. What park attraction has children from all over the world singing to the same melody? East Stroudsburg, David.
It's a small world.
That is correct for 10 points. In fact, you know, they've changed one of the lyrics now. It's a small world after all. Michael Ovitz took a fall. 90 million, what a haul. It's a small, small world. All righty. Next, a world of high sea scoundrels. Thank you for that applause. A world of high sea scoundrels can be seen on a Disneyland boat ride known as Treasure Island, Pirates of the Caribbean, or Captain Jack's. Steve, East Stroudsburg.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
That is correct, and you look like somebody who's been on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Have you? I knew it. I could sense it. Finally, the world of the future is explored in Tomorrowland, which features what roller coaster ride through the stars? Professor Jarvis.
Magic Mountain.
Oh, that is not correct. We move over to John J. Larry.
Space Mountain.
Space Mountain is correct. Magic Mountain's north of Los Angeles. Completely different park. It was a joke there, Professor Jarvis. All right, that take care of round one. We'll be back with more clips and questions right after Remember This continues. Are they coming at me? And welcome back to Remember This. Got a pretty good game going. East Stroudsburg 70, John Jay College of Criminal Justice 20. And let's meet some of our today's players. David Colarusso, a sophomore, social studies, secondary education. But what do you like to do when you're not in class, Dave?
I play rugby.
Really? So you like what is it called? A scrum? Is that the?
Yes.
Is that the sound everybody makes when they hit each other? Scrum.
That it is.
How's the team then?
Oh, pretty good.
Really? All right.
Good.
Well, maybe you'll scrimmage with us a little bit later. That'd be fun.
Maybe.
Professor Joseph Jarvis, history and chair of the history department. Pretty good sized history department there at East Stroudsburg?
Yes, we're 6 people.
That's
on the
it?
faculty, yeah.
6 people. How many?
150 majors.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
We're overworked and underpaid.
All right. The views of Professor Jarvis are his own. And
I'm also president of the union.
okay. Well, before we start looking for the union label, let's move over to Steve here. Media studies. So what is that? You study the media, I guess.
Yeah, television, movies, radio. We just like look at it and like try to form studies and things.
That sounds like a real piece of cake major.
Yeah, well.
Way to go. Larry Cunningham, John Jay College, Criminal Justice. Now, what do you want to do when you get out of college there?
Well, next year I'm planning to go to law school and then
All right.
become a lawyer after
Hence
that.
the suit.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Mr. John Emmons, you're Director of Financial Services, and your hobby's photography?
Yes.
Black and white or color?
Mainly color.
Really? And do you have you tried those new APS cameras yet? With the little cartridge?
I'm still into the old 35 millimeter stuff.
All right, but not that automatic. You do
No.
the adjustment and everything? Yeah. All right, well, maybe you'll do a portrait of me later. And Jeremy Poland, a senior and the only guy who didn't wear a jacket on the team. You're kind of the rebel, aren't you, Jeremy?
I guess so.
Okay, well, calm down, all right. All righty, we're going to move up the points here. 20 points a question. Everybody ready?
Yes.
All righty. Dateline, April 25, 1980. Take a look as Tom Brokaw reports on a rescue that unfortunately never got off the ground. See if you remember this.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tom Brokaw, and we're starting at this early hour today because of major developments in Iran. 8 American servicemen were killed, apparently in the crash of a helicopter with a C-130 cargo plane in Iran during a secret United States mission to rescue the hostages. Apparently, the crash occurred here when there was an equipment failure near the town of Tabaz. This is Tehran up here, which would have been the target. The announcement came early this morning from Presidential Press Secretary Jody Powell. The rescue effort was called off before it reached Tehran.
Well, the day before the mission, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee attempted to discourage President Carter from attempting a military operation without whose consent? The Joint Chiefs, Congress, or the CIA? From John Jay College, Larry.
Congress.
Congress is correct for 20 points. Your teammates are now in control. Stating his opposition to the rescue attempt, which Secretary of State resigned? Alexander Haig, Cyrus Vance, or Henry Kissinger? Mr. Emmons or Jeremy? Mr. Emmons.
Cyrus Vance.
Cyrus Vance, correct for another 20 points. You're up to 60. Jeremy, this last one for you. What private citizen organized a successful Mideast rescue of 2 of his EDS employees? Just take a guess. We move over to East Stroudsburg. Professor Jarvis.
Ross Perot.
Ross Perot is correct. He did that before he lost his mind. No, I'm kidding. Dateline is June 9, 1977. Take a look as Jackson Vane reports on a singer hitting a sour note. See if you remember this.
Inside, all went smoothly until she mentioned homosexuals in her sermon. As she tried to explain that homosexuals could be forgiven by God, about 150 gay demonstrators shouted and walked from the auditorium.
When I said the word homosexual, that they didn't hear the last part of those verses. That God said, such were some of you, but ye are washed, ye are sanctified, ye are justified in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ.
When we come back, 20-point questions about that lady when Remember This continues. Oh, lady! Nice lady! And before the commercial, we're now in the middle of a 20-point round. East Stroudsburg 90, John Jay College 60. And before the commercial, we saw a story about this lady here. So our question to start off, who the heck is she? East Stroudsburg, Professor Jarvis.
Anita Bryant.
Anita Bryant is correct for 20 points. Your teammates are in control. At the time, Anita Bryant was a singer and also a commercial spokesperson for what type of product? Steve or David? Take a guess. David?
Toothpaste.
That is not correct. Good shot, though. John Jay College. Anybody want to take a shot at it? Larry?
Soda.
That is not correct. You're close, though.
Orange juice.
Yeah, orange juice, that's my job, Professor Jarvis. I don't teach history. You don't give the answers. Orange juice is correct, but we could not award the points. So this is a toss-up now. Finally, Bryant's opposition to gay rights in the 1970s was a cause that would later be championed by what senator from North Carolina? John Jay or East Stroudsburg? Steve?
Jesse Helms?
Jesse Helms is correct for another 20 points. You take a commanding 130 to 60 lead, but we've got another question for you, another story. The dateline is August 14th, 1995. Take a look as Matt Lauer reports on the storming of a stronghold. See if you remember this.
In other news, Shannon Faulkner is a Citadel cadet today, the first woman to topple a 152-year-old all-male tradition. She was up and around early for roll call and marches this morning, along with 600 freshman cadets. Now she faces another tradition, the orientation called Hell Week. 2 Supreme Court justices Friday refused to block her admission.
Here at Remember This, every day is Hell Week. After a 2.5-year campaign to gain admittance, how long did Shannon Faulkner last at the Citadel? East Stroudsburg, Steve.
About a week.
That is not correct. We move over to John Jay College. Larry.
3 weeks.
That is not correct. 1 day. 1 day. Now this next question is a toss-up. In 1996, another all-male bastion was forced to accept women. Was it the Virginia Military Institute, the Culver Military Academy, or the Harvard Club? East Stroudsburg, David.
Virginia Military Institute.
VMI, that is correct, for another 20 points. And finally, in 1979, girls were allowed to enter what Nebraska institution originally established for delinquent young men? Professor Jarvis?
Boys Town.
Boys Town is correct. A clean sweep, another 20 points. You're in the lead commandingly. And nice pats on the back. 170 to John Jay College's 60. I think you ought to give each other a little high five here. John Jay, get yourself going, okay? Come on. Okay, never mind. The date line is November 11th. That's team spirit. Dateline, November 11th, 1987. Take a look as Cassandra Clayton reports on some very expensive flowers. See if you remember this.
Now. The record price was commanded by irises, painted by Van Gogh in 1889. A garden scene at a French asylum the artist entered before he committed suicide at 37 years old.
$15 million.
The bidding started at $15 million and escalated in increments of $1 million. After $30 million, the competition was narrowed to 2, bidding by phone.
Wow. Now for the points, within $10 million, how much did the painting finally go for? East Stroudsburg, Steve.
$45 million.
We are going to accept that. It was the actual... are you burping him or no? The actual answer, $53.9 million. I dropped out at 50, so I never quite got it. Van Gogh did without that money while he was alive. He also did without an earlobe. Which of the following best describes why he cut it off? He had a hearing problem, mental illness, or grief over his girlfriend? Professor Jarvis.
Mental illness.
Mental illness is correct for another 20 as you move well above 200. Finally, which category does Van Gogh's work fall under? Expressionism, Impressionism, or Cubism? David.
Impressionism.
That's right, Impressionism, and in fact, he was followed in that by Frank Gorshin. We are now done with our 20-point questions. We've got our speed round coming up. Still anybody's game. Don't go away as Remember This continues. And welcome back to Remember This. Right now, looks like we've got a lopsided game. East Stroudsburg, 230. John Jay College of Criminal Justice, 60. However, things can change dramatically in this round. We're going to ask a series of questions. They're worth 30 points apiece. You get them right, we give you 30. You get them wrong, we take away 30. Whoever's in the lead when the tone sounds, that's the winner of today's game, who will go on to the semifinals and will get $1,000 for their school scholarship fund as they move to that next round. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Dateline, April 5th, 1955. Sir Anthony Eden becomes Prime Minister of Britain. Who does he succeed? East Stroudsburg, Professor Jarvis.
Winston Churchill.
That is correct for 30. You move up to 260. Dateline, Baltimore, September 13, 1814. British bombard Fort McHenry. This incident inspires Francis Scott Key to write the words to what? Larry.
Star-Spangled Banner.
The Star-Spangled Banner, our national anthem, is correct. You move up to 90. Dateline, March 12, 1945. 14-year-old dies of typhus. Anne Frank leaves behind what written documents? East Stroudsburg, David.
Her diary.
Her diary is correct. For another 30, you're up to 290. Dateline, January 1, 1986. Science fiction writer dies. L. Ron Hubbard is founder of what church? East Stroudsburg, David.
Church of Scientology.
That is correct. For another 30, you're up to 320. Dateline, Germany, June 26, 1963. Kennedy visits Berlin Wall. He utters what famous quote? East Stroudsburg, Professor Jarvis.
Ich bin ein Berliner. I am a Berliner.
That is correct. For another 30, you're up to 350. Dateline, New York, August 24th, 1981. Mark David Chapman given 20 years to life. He is guilty of whose murder? East Stroudsburg, Professor Jarvis.
John Lennon.
John Lennon is correct for another 30. Dateline, Washington, D.C., June 6, 1934. FDR forms new federal agency. What commission will police Wall Street? Professor Jarvis.
The Securities Exchange Commission.
That is correct for another 30. You're at 410. Dateline, December 29, 1845. Lone Star burns bright. Which state joins the Union? David, East Stroudsburg.
Texas.
That is correct. 440. Dateline, Palm Springs. You guys want to go out for a while? February 3rd, 1971. Under the heading Hit and Run Driver, which vice president beans golf spectators and flees in his cart? Professor Jarvis.
Spiro Agnew.
That is correct. 470. Dateline, New York City, October 24, 1929. Anybody can win. Stock market crashes. What colorful day marks the fall? Jeremy.
Black Monday.
That is not correct. We take away 30. East Stroudsburg, Professor Jarvis.
Black Thursday.
That is correct. You're at 500. Oh, my golly. That was close. John Jay. I got to tell you, you guys kind of choked there at the end, but no, they did a good. You guys really did a good job, and that's very. They were a little quicker. Of course, you could say that you won. Okay. Again, you'll be back again next week for another try. So yeah, just bone up a little bit, and you'll be all right. East Stroudsburg, man, I think this is the highest score we've had yet. 500. Very nicely done.
Hey,
thanks for being with us. You'll be moving on to the semifinals with another $1,000 now for your school scholarship fund. That's it for this edition. Until next week, we'll see you again on Remember This. I'm Al Roker. Good night, everybody.
Where you've been,